Okay, so tonight, what I want to do is sort of give you a more advanced topics type of issue in public choice and public finance. It applies this what we're going to talk about today or tonight. It applies in both the realms of public choice and public finance, because really what we're doing is we're going to talk about voting on multiple issues at once. Okay, so if you remember, several weeks ago, we talked about something called the median voter theorem. And the basic idea behind this was that it was the median voter, gets what they want. Or another way to say it is the person or the position in sort of the middle of a spectrum is what gets ultimately selected. So we did it in like a single issue space, where we had some continuum of potential things that that some issue could take a part on. So you could have like 0% taxation if you wanted to, and like 100% taxation, right? Or you could have zero security guards over here on the left, right here, or you could have 100 security guards over here on the right. Whatever the public good or tax scheme that we're talking about, it fell along some continuum. And you'd have three people, let's call this like person A, person B, and person C, right? And what we found, and we could add in D and E in non-alphabetical order, because why the hell not? And what we found was that person B or position B was the one position that was most likely to occur in sort of a majority rule setting, right? And that was true regardless of what we kind of thought about it. It was true regardless of a lot of different voting rules, frankly. And so this median voter theorem became sort of a hallmark of public choice as a way of explaining lots of things. So remember when we talked about how in presidential election cycles, we typically have like the entire continuum of people. So this could be like the very far right, and this could be like the very far left, right? And then we had like that primary position where this would be like in the US, the RNC would be over here and the DNC would be over there. And we said, hey, the candidate that wins sort of each primary has to have sort of a median position in their party. But then once the general election kind of happens, we tend to see, the winning candidates kind of move toward the median of the overall population. A lot of people say that this is in part why Bernie Sanders did not win the Democratic election, is because he started off, I'm going to make him blue just because, he started off pretty far left, let's call him here, and it was pretty clear that he was not going to be willing to, move over to this area to try to appeal to a broader base. Instead, what he was actually trying to do is actually to try to take this median voter, and I'm going to get rid of this arrow just to get stuff out of our way. What he was actually trying to do was move the median voter over to the left, right? And maybe he succeeded, maybe he didn't. There's all kinds of arguments that could be made, but in the end, it appears at least that Joe Biden is going to be the Democrat nominee, and he's going to obviously go against Donald Trump. And so the question remains, where is this median, right? Where does that median person lie? And who can move sort of closest to them, perhaps without alienating their base, right? Alienating the base, again, says like, hey, these people over here, if you're a person and you are like here and you see, the two options that you have perhaps being here and here, you might say, screw it, I'm not going to bother voting, right? That was one of the questions on your public choice exam earlier. Okay, so this is all well and good, and it makes sense. And this is what we call single issue voting, right? Because there's really one issue that these that's going on, that's being selected here, and we just kind of did it that way. But in real worlds, in the real world, there's oftentimes multiple issues that are being voted on, at once. And so how can we kind of take this and imagine how to do this in, let's say, 2 dimensions, or in 3 dimensions, or in n dimensions? Okay, so here what we need is we got to have, instead of a line, we need to have like an axis. Okay, so we can draw an axis, and we'll call this, the x-axis, and we'll call this the y-axis, just to use familiar nomenclature. And really what x and y are representing is 2 different policy proposals. Okay, so this, x could be maybe like gun control, to be controversial, so I can put this in the keynotes or the keywords of this video, and maybe like y is, taxes. Right? And this would be like no, 0, 0, so no gun control and no taxes. This could be like 100% taxes, and this could be like 100% gun control, right? Where no one gets to own a gun, or I don't know what that would look like, but let's just say it for sake of argument, okay? And so I'm going to start off with just 3 people, because 3 people is kind of the easiest. And we can imagine someone who is perhaps like against gun control. So they might live, further to the left on the x-axis here, and therefore relatively low taxes, but perhaps not 0 taxes, and perhaps not 0 gun control. And so for them, their optimal combination would be like here, right? Which says, hey, we've got some low combination of taxes and some low amount of gun restrictions, okay? And we could also imagine someone who maybe they're pro gun control, so they'd be further out to the right on the x-axis here. And maybe they're really for, taxes as well. I'm going to get rid of this dashed line here. And so maybe they're just like pro taxes and pro gun control. So they're perhaps like up here. Okay. So again, this would be, this person is for high amounts of taxation and high amounts of gun control, right? So, so that's where that person, perhaps lies. And then we can imagine like a third person who, maybe they're they're moderately pro gun control, but they are pro low taxes. So they would be, somewhere like here. I'm going to actually move them a little bit. Let's say they're pro taxes a little bit more. Okay. So we've got these 3 different people represented by these 3 different dots. And these 3 different dots represent sort of their ideal policy positions, where they would, if they got to be, a ruler for a day, where they would set policy on these 2 issues. Okay. And so now the question becomes, what's going to be the outcome, right? What would be the actual outcome of sort of this position here? And actually, I am